you know what they say? Third time's a charm, and President Donald Trump is eyeing that third term, or as he calls it, technically his fourth term, because 2020 that was victory in President Donald Trump's mind. He was on Air Force One yesterday, and he was asked about something that has come up now multiple times, and Donald Trump was not going to say no to the question of whether or not he would seek a third term in office when his current term expires in 2026.
You said you were not joking about a third term, about possibly wanting a third term. Does that mean you're not planning to leave office on January 20th?
I'm not looking at that, but I'll tell you, I have had more people ask me to have a third term, which is in a way a fourth term, because the other election, the 2020 election, was totally rigged. So it's sort of a fourth term in a certain way. I just don't want the credit for the second, because Biden was so bad. He did such a bad job. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm popular, if you want to know the truth. I think I'm popular because we've done a great job. I think we've had the best almost 100 days of any president. And most people are saying that. And it's an honor. We're bringing back our country. We're respected as a country again.
And it's really loud on the plane. But yeah, Donald Trump said, look, I am very popular. And I've had so many people, many people have told me that I should run for a third term. Now, a couple of people in Donald Trump's orbit, including Steve Bannon, have already reported that he is working on legal ways that he can come back and run and win a third term in office. Of course, there are some constitutional guidelines that outline 2 terms per president, those put in place after FDR, just was there for what seemed like forever. But Donald Trump is a man of action. He's a man of big ideas, and if he has the energy and the ability to continue to serve, he's going to want to serve in some kind of capacity. So we'll see what happens. You know what? It's way too. We got bigger fish to fry. For example, Donald Trump still has to figure out this ceasefire agreement. And over the weekend, he got very angry with Vladimir Putin and called in to meet the press with Kristen Welker to explain just how angry with Vladimir Putin he is.
Just hours ago, President Trump called me to tell me he is, quote, pissed off with Russia's President Putin and threatened to impose secondary tariffs on Russia's oil. Quote, if Russia and I are unable to make a deal on stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine, and if I think it was Russia's fault, which it might not be, but if I think it was Russia's fault, I am going to put secondary tariffs on all oil coming out of Russia. Mr. Trump said 25% tariffs on Russian oil could happen any moment and told me he plans to speak with President Putin this week. The president told me, quote, I was very angry, pissed off when Putin started getting into Zelensky's credibility and started talking about new leadership in Ukraine.
Now, Donald Trump's very upset that Vladimir Putin was talking about Vladimir Zelensky and questioning his legal authority and his credibility, because only Donald Trump can do that. I mean, we've all questioned Vladimir Zelensky's credibility and ability. But the fact of the matter is that they're in the middle of a very, very serious ceasefire negotiation, and Ukraine has stepped up and Vladimir Putin has not. And Donald Trump is saying, look, we're gonna get this deal done. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you think. This is something that is on my agenda. We've got to stop the killing. We've got to end the war. And also, we've got to sign some agreements that will bring peace to the region and will also allow Ukraine to have certain capabilities when it comes to security in the future. And also that will get the United States some of its money back, because we've spent, well, let's just say we've spent a lot of money. And Donald Trump is saying he's gotten to the point where, not that he's at the breaking point, but he's going to lose his temper. We see Donald Trump's public anger as not just a tool, but a very effective negotiating tactic. We saw his anger erupt at Vladimir Zelensky in the White House, in the Oval Office, when he came the first time. And it got Vladimir Zelensky to tuck tail and run back the other way, eventually agreeing to the rare earth mineral deal, which they still have yet to sign. Will it have the same effect on Vladimir Putin? We don't know. But the secondary tariffs may, and Donald Trump is dead set on imposing those secondary tariffs to make sure that Vladimir Putin and everyone in Moscow knows that this war must come to an end.
We put secondary tariffs on, as you know, in Venezuela. And it's had a very strong impact on Venezuela. You know that every ship just got out and they left. A lot of them left. They dropped the hoses right into the ocean and they left. They didn't want to be there for a minute because they didn't want those tariffs to catch on, or they didn't want me to see them there. So the Venezuela secondary tariffs, all secondary tariffs are very strong because essentially it says if you disobey our orders, you cannot do business in the United States of America. And that's the cash cow.
Would that apply to Chinese companies buying Russian oil as well, if you plan to go ahead with those?
So if, in the case of Venezuela, as you know, China pulled up anchor and left. They were there. They had 2 ships there, and they left. They left empty. They didn't want to take a chance. No, we're not playing.
So Donald Trump is saying, look, we're not playing games here. We're going to impose these secondary tariffs on Russia. And if you see what that does, it cripples the energy economy. You see these ships that don't want to pay double the price to bring their product into the United States of America. So they're dropping their hoses and they're going elsewhere. And that's going to happen. That's going to resonate. That's going to have a domino effect around the world. And Donald Trump says it's not just Russia that he's looking to impose secondary tariffs on, but he'll do it with Iran. And Iran, I don't know if you know about this, but they got a lot of oil in the Middle East. And Donald Trump says we'll impose secondary tariffs on Iran too. One of Donald Trump's most, I guess you would say, greatest accomplishments toward world peace and protecting the United States of America was bankrupting the country of Iran in his first term. That is something that Joe Biden came in and basically just reversed. He made Iran rich again. And when Iran becomes rich, they don't invest their money on things like we do. They buy guns and bombs and they pay terrorists to terrorize Israelis and Americans worldwide. And so Donald Trump says in order, as a public safety measure, as a measure of national security, Iran cannot have money. And if they're going to continue to fund the Houthi rebels in Yemen who are bombing ships in the Red Sea, well, then we are going to impose secondary tariffs on them as well.
The secondary tariffs on Iran, and we'll probably give it a couple of weeks, and if we don't see any progress, we're going to put them on. We're not putting them on right now, but if you remember, I did that 6 years ago, and it worked very well, to put it mildly. And if the election weren't rigged, you would have a situation where there would be no problem with Iran today, but it was. Biden didn't know what he was doing, obviously. And we have a very rough situation in the middle.
Yeah, so Donald Trump is angry with Putin. He's angry with Iran. He's throwing tariffs on pretty much anyone. And he's not that happy with Vladimir Zelensky either. He sees Vladimir Zelensky now as trying to back out of the rare earth mineral deal that will bring security to his country and end to the war and will repay the United States of America for their entire hundreds of billions of dollars that they've invested trying to keep Ukraine safe and trying to beat back Russian forces. So Donald Trump is saying, look, we are in this to recoup our losses, and we are in this to make sure that moving forward, we have an interest in Ukraine, because you're not going to get NATO membership. That's never been on the table, nor will it ever be. But if you have an investment partner in the United States of America, if you have a mining partner in the United States of America, if we are somehow tied to you economically, and that's what this rare earth mineral deal would put forth, then the United States will come in, we'll start excavating, we'll build, we'll redo the infrastructure, we'll pay for all of that. And on top of it all, we will keep you safe and secure, because nobody's going to bomb American forces or American businesses or American interests in Ukraine. It will be a win-win-win. And Vladimir Zelensky now apparently is backtracking on that. And that is something that Donald Trump is just not at all happy about.
Zelensky, by the way, I see he's trying to back out of the rare earth deal. And if he does that, he's got some problems, big problems. We made a deal on rare earth. And now he's saying, well, I want to renegotiate the deal. He wants to be a member of NATO. Well, he was never going to be a member of NATO. He understands that. So if he's looking to renegotiate the deal, he's got big problems.
Yeah, he actually said he never saw the money that was being given to the United States by Joe Biden, by the Democrats in Congress, and unfortunately a bunch of Republicans. He never saw that as a loan. He saw that as a gift to the Ukrainian people. It wasn't a gift, or you may have seen it that way, but now we have somebody else in office and they're renegotiating for sure. Donald Trump is serious, and this week marks a big shift in economic policy, a big shift in how the United States of America is, gets its revenue from internal revenue, tax day just a couple of weeks away, to external revenue, with Liberation Day coming up on Wednesday. Liberation Day is the term that Donald Trump has given to April 2nd, because on April 2nd, that's when the reciprocal reciprocal tariffs hit. Reciprocal tariffs will hit every country nationwide, which means that if they tariff us, the United States will automatically impose a reciprocal matching tariff. It's exactly what the Democrats have always wanted. Fairness. Fair is fair. If you're going to tariff us 25%, we're going to tariff you 25%. If you're going to tariff us 70%, we're going to tariff you 70%. And we've already seen the economic impact with all of these companies, Hyundai, for example, and the Taiwanese chip manufacturer coming here to the United States with hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment. Even our own companies like Apple Computer rearranging their facilities and saying, you know what? We probably got to start making these iPhones in the United States of America because these tariffs are going to hit us hard. So what Donald Trump has imposed, or what he has suggested to impose, and what will go into effect on April 2nd, already having a massive effect on what's coming here into the country. And Donald Trump says, look, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if foreign auto prices go up. It'll just make Americans go out and buy American cars. And that's good for American jobs. It's good for the American economy. It's good for American consumers. It's good for American communities. Kevin Hassert, the director of the National Economic Council, was on the news talking exactly about how Donald Trump's tariffs not only will be effective, but have already been massively effective.
First of all, notice how many announcements there have been made about all the investment that's coming to the U.S. Even Hyundai said they're going to build a $10 billion plant this week. And so the point is all that stuff comes to the U.S., then the value of U.S. production has to go up. And so right now, about 15% of GDP is imported, and that's the part of GDP that'll be impacted by our trade policies. And they're basically taking 15% of GDP and onshoring it. Meanwhile, one of the biggest news items that people haven't been talking about is the Big Six, the group of us that are negotiating with Congress the tax bill, have had an enormous amount of positive progress. And so think about it. We've got the biggest, most pro-worker tax cut in history that's moving forward at a breakneck speed, and that affects the other 85% of GDP. So President Trump is right to say we've got the golden age coming, and I think the naysayers will be proven wrong if they're a little bit nervous about the blips from this week to next.
Yeah, when the economy is, we've been kind of spoiled with this kind of instantaneous relief that Donald Trump has been able to establish in other aspects and other verticals. For example, the border. The border shut down is very easy. All you have to do is say, go shut down the border and, put some troops in front of it and you're good to go. When you look at, for example, the illegal immigration and deportation, those things are pretty easy. You can see the ICE agents on the ground. You can see them raiding people, putting them on planes and sending back to Venezuela, that kind of thing. So those are quick fixes, but the economy is a little slower. It takes a little longer. And even though it's been fewer than 100 days, Donald Trump is putting us right on track to make sure that we have more money in our pockets, lower prices for consumer goods, and an all-around better financial experience for the majority of Americans. Wages will go up, taxes will go down. That means that you'll have more money in your pocket to spend. And when you spend it, you're probably going to spend it on American goods and services because they won't be tariffed. And all of these other countries, or all of these other companies from around the globe, are bringing manufacturing back here, which means even more high-paying jobs and more opportunity for the United States. Plus, don't forget that when you economically strengthen a country like the U.S., it means that another country that maybe will do us harm or is not necessarily the nicest to us, like China or Russia or even India, they will be suffering some kind of economic loss. So it is a win-win for the United States once again. It'll take a little bit more than, couple days. But if you have the patience and if you have the foresight, and if you're like Donald Trump and you stay on task and stay on course, no matter what the naysayers in the media are doing, then you will see success and we will be victorious when it comes to the economic rebound. We are truly living in the new golden age, and it is invigorating and exciting, and everyone should be invigorated and excited. I know I am. Somebody else who's invigorated and excited is Elon Musk. Elon Musk, who appeared in Wisconsin yesterday at a rally with Scott Pressler. They're rallying for Brad Schimmel, who's running for the Supreme Court there. It is a tight race and a necessary race to maintain the majority in the House of Representatives, and he showed up at the Wisconsin rally with a lot of money to hand out and also a cheese head. Yeah, that was a quick clip. that was a shorter clip. That was a shorter clip that I thought it was. But Elon Musk was saying, look, here's why I'm here. Here's why this is so important. Here's why this race in Wisconsin is something that we all need to be aware of, and we all need to get out and support Republicans for.
So let me finish by saying, obviously, yeah, those at the state level will be cool. But just remember, like the importance of the election on Tuesday is gigantic. It could decide the future of the House of Representatives. It could decide then the future of America and the future of the world. So it's absolutely critical that you need to just drag friends and family to vote on Tuesday for Justice Schimmel and for voter ID. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you.
that was Elon Musk, and he was, like I said, he was at a rally at Scott Presser. He had some big names there, and his whole goal was to make sure that people in Wisconsin know just how important it is to get out and vote. And it is very important to get out and vote. Tomorrow's election day, not just in Wisconsin, but in Florida, there are 2 special elections for Republican-held seats, and the Republicans definitely want both of those. Donald Trump wants both of those to remain in Republican hands so that he can get his agenda passed through Congress and not be saddled with yet another impeachment effort in 2026. A big day across the nation tomorrow. Republicans definitely need to get out the vote to support President Donald Trump. Speaking of supporting President Donald Trump, there was an interesting post on his Truth Social about Kid Rock, Bill Maher, and Dana White. Donald Trump wrote, I got a call from a very good guy and friend of mine, Kid Rock, asking me whether or not it would be possible for me to meet in the White House with Bill Maher, a man who has been unjustifiably critical of anything or anyone Trump. I really didn't like the idea much, and don't like it much now, but thought it would be interesting. The problem is, no matter how much he likes your favorite president, me, he will publicly proclaim what a terrible guy I am, etc. Very much like the Democrats at my recent address to the joint session of Congress, where I stated correctly that no matter what I said or did, they wouldn't stand, they wouldn't applaud, they wouldn't smile or laugh, and certainly they wouldn't be anyway nice. Who knows, though? Maybe I'll be proven wrong. In any event, I'm doing a favor for a friend. I look forward to meeting with Bill Maher, Kid Rock, and I believe even the legendary Dana White will be present. It might be fun or it might not, but you will be the first to know. I did not have Kid Rock negotiating an appearance on Bill Maher with President Donald Trump and also Dana White on my 2025 bingo card. But then again, with Donald Trump in the White House, anything is possible. And one other piece of sad horticultural news. Donald Trump posted, working together with a fantastic and very talented executive resident staff, along with the wonderful people at the National Park Service, we are making tremendous enhancements to the White House, thereby preserving and protecting history. One of the interesting dilemmas is a tree planted many years ago by the legendary President and General Andrew Jackson. It is a southern magnolia that came from his home, the Hermitage, in Tennessee. That's the good news. The bad news is that everything must come to an end, and this tree is in terrible condition. A very dangerous safety hazard. At the White House entrance, no less, and must be removed. This process will take place next week, and will be replaced by another very beautiful tree. The historic wood from the tree will be preserved by the White House staff and may be used for other high and noble purposes. So, Andrew Jackson's magnolia tree from the Hermitage in Tennessee is coming down at the White House and being replaced with something else. I imagine that Donald Trump is being honest when he says that the tree is in rough shape. I mean, it is a couple hundred years old, but at the same time, Andrew Jackson was a Democrat. So I imagine the decision to pull the tree may not have been as difficult as some might think. Hey, listen, we've got a lot more to cover today. There's a lot more with the Elon Musk rally that we want to discuss. There's a lot of other news outside of the White House that's very important. And we cover all of it in our second daily podcast, Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. This happens live at noon Eastern on any of our streaming services, YouTube or Rumble or even X. Or if you'd prefer to listen to it, you can download the podcast and listen to it whenever you want. But you just go to iTunes or Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, search Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Download, listen, and enjoy.